good evening. Like Professor rightly said, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone, depending on the our zone. I am Dr. Akinadewo Israel. I'm here today to present a paper on microfinance banks and growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises in emerging economies. Evidence from Nigeria. Globally, the MSMEs have been seen as very pivotal to poverty alleviation and, of course, economic growth, most especially in emerging economies. And, of course, the lack of adequate funding has been the bane, has been the problems from actualizing these objectives of MSMEs. And of course, the primary problems is, of course, the inadequacy of working capital, which had led to mortality rate and early demise of the MSMEs, which had led, of course, to poor economies, as stressed by CAN 2020 and the other authors. This lack of capital or funding, which is the lacuna, is what led to the emergence of microfinance banks in Nigeria. And of course, studies have also showed and believe that despite this, the effort of the microfinance banks have not actually translated to visible growth for the SMEs. And because of that, there's also a concern that the services, the product of the FMBs, that is microfinance banks in Nigeria, have not actually reached the larger population of the intended target. If you look at this photo, you see this is a typical Nigerian MSME entrepreneurial environment. You realize that if you look at data, you realize that majority of population of working class in Nigeria, they tend to have more of these MSMEs. So if there's a problem with the MSME sector, you can be assured that it will affect the economic growth of the nation. So that is why the MSMEs is very, very key to the growth of Nigeria. And of course, because of that, or this lack of funding, government also introduced what they call the trader money during this pandemic period. These photographs are there for you to see that there's a problem of financing as far as the MSMEs are concerned. So despite the number of the licensed banks, licensed FMBs in Nigeria, as at 30th June of 2019, which I sourced from the Central Bank of Nigeria record, Lagos State also have 172. But despite that, it is doubtful if microfinance has assisted in the reduction of poverty as well as achieving the expected growth of MSMEs in Nigeria, according to researchers. And because of that, that is why the primary objective of this study is to investigate the nexus between MFBs and growth of MSMEs in Nigeria. This study came up with two hypotheses. The first hypothesis was to test the hypothesis one, that is, if microfinance banks have actually significantly channeled their resources towards MSMEs in Nigeria. And hypothesis two, to actually look at the relationship between MFBs and the MSMEs in Nigeria. This study created a concept and, of course, look at the theoretical framework of the study. There are two, of course, the independent variable is the microfinance bank, while the dependent variable is the growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises. And of course, the independent variables also has its own component as shown on the screen. Then the two theories were reviewed, the financial constraint theory and the pecking order theory. But this particular study is funded, anchored on the pecking order theory, which of course talks about the funding principle of MSMEs in terms of looking internally first before going to the market. That is one that this particular study is anchored. The methodology, how this thing was achieved, the type of the something used was survey research design was used, and of course a self-administered questionnaire which was designed through the 5 Likert scale method. And out of the 2050 respondents targeted population, only 89.2% were validly received. That is 223 respondents. And of course, the respondents were majorly microfinance bank operators as well as the MSMEs entrepreneurs. And of course, we cover Lagos State because it's the city that has the largest concentration of MFBs as well as MSMEs in Nigeria. The data was analyzed through inferential statistics, of course, logit regression method. The findings From the hypothesis one, which states in null form that microfinance banks have not significantly channeled their resources toward MSMEs in Nigeria. But the coefficients show that the T calculated of 8.181 is greater than T tabulated of 0.000 at 5% level of significance. Of course, this led us to reject the null hypothesis by accepting the alternate hypothesis, which says that the microfinance bank have actually significantly channeled their resources towards MSME in Nigeria. Then the hypothesis 2 testing shows also that the coefficients shows that the T calculated of 0.50 is greater than the T tabulated of 0.00 at 5% level of significance, which also reject the null hypothesis by accepting the fact that there's a significant positive relationship between microfinance banks and the MSMEs in Nigeria. And if you look at the model estimation output, it will show you, because the a priori expectation was that the beta of 0 must be greater than 0, while the beta of 1 to 4, that is in the terms of the independent variables, should be greater than 0. And this is achieved through that. So which shows that the MFBs have channeled their resources towards the MSMEs in Nigeria. And of course, which also indicates that there's a significant positive nexus between microfinance banks and MSMEs in Nigeria. Which, of course, according to, as indicated by the various results of the components of independent variables. Recommendations of this study. It is recommended that there's a need for a stronger, more effective team comprises of all stakeholders to be put in place by government to ensure that the microfinance banks do not derail from their primary responsibility of sustaining funding for the MSMEs. Because if you know Nigeria, we have regulators, we have a lot of documents to show in terms of regulating most of these industry reports. You realize that people hardly apply this on that. So that is why this recommendation is very, very germane to it. Then the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is the main regulatory body for this microfinance bank, should be more proactive to address any area of infractions by microfinance banks for a more efficient management. And it's also recommended that there should be timely statutory audits of microfinance banks. I was, about a few weeks ago, there was a microfinance bank that put it in the national papers that they want to do an AGM of 5 years. And you could see that for 5 years, they did not do an audited account. So is it a finance institution that didn't do a financial statement or audit for 5 years that will not be able to do things according to the demands of the regulatory bodies? That is why it is said that there must be timely statutory audit of microfinance banks. And of course, there should be effective management and monitoring of the MSMEs to ensure that the facilities granted are utilized as intended. And also, government should do a more effective profiling of MSMEs in the country so as to have the true picture of the needs for better economic development of the country. I want to state here that one of the problems of the country in Nigeria has to do with data collection. I can tell you, for you to now say the number of the MSMEs in the country, it is very, very difficult. So that is why this particular and to arrive at the link between the two variables. And if you look at the limitation to the study also, we have to look at the COVID-19 pandemic. We have to look at the COVID-19 pandemic and to be able to link it with the problems of the MSMEs in the country now. And then, of course, this study was limited to just Lagos State. And we have cities like Port Harcourt, Onitsha, that we could have used data across board. And of course, areas for that study is also indicated there. And yes, that is just about this paper. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Your timing was great. You actually took 10 minutes or somewhere thereabout. Very good. So I'd like to ask anyone in the audience who'd like to ask him a question. Any questions for him? Please note, Nigeria is one of the largest populated countries in Africa, so it's very significant for us to discuss what's happening there. Are there any questions from the audience? Right, as we wait, can I ask you one, please, Israel?
Please go ahead, please.
Yes, please. Whoever wanted to ask the question, please carry on. Yes, Mark.
Yes, if I may. Thank you very much for that presentation. I was very pleased to hear you highlight the issue around the dearth of data. I think this is one of the greatest challenges, particularly in respect of attracting foreign direct investment into a country, is that they're wanting access to documentation, they're wanting recent accounts, independently verified documents, and this whole issue of data is one of the biggest challenges. And I know that Nigeria has made a very conscious effort to try and make progress in this field. Could I ask, are there statutory requirements? You said that the organization had not had their accounts put together for 5 years. I mean, what are the legal obligations with regard to companies and organizations, and how often they should produce accounts?
Yes, should I respond?
Yes, please.
Because at a point in time, I lost network. If you hear Prof. Mark Thomas very well, he was talking about this inability to present financial statements as at when due. Correct?
Hmm.
Yes, you see, one of the problems in let me put Nigeria as an example, is this issue of lack of will from the regulatory bodies to enforce laws on most of these concerns. And you have to agree with me that it's actually one of the problems facing the developing economies. And you know, there's this kind of sentiment. You know, Nigeria is a diverse nation. And of course, if naturally, every institution needs to submit their annual statements to the regulatory bodies. But where you have a key sector, like the microfinance bank that is giving loans or credit to MSMEs, not be able to even fulfill a primary thing like a submission of financial statement. So how would they be able to even manage the loans they are giving out, the credit they are giving out? So if you want to enforce law, you yourself, you are not obedient to the law. That is one of the problems. So it is not far-fetched that the institution, the regulatory laws governing this must be not just it's not that the law is not there, but the will to enforce it. Yes, sir.